Curious to hear about how magnetic my first live event went? Well, come and take a listen. I am sharing all the details. Welcome to your emotional makeover. Things your mother never told you because no one ever told her. I'm your host, Dr. Amanda Hanson. This is where you reimagine womanhood. Let us begin. So I just got back from my first ever live event, Magnetic, last night. And I really wanted to come here while it was still extremely fresh and share my experience and some of the biggest things that really landed for me during this time. I first want to say that the entire travel to get there, the rehearsals the day before, the villa that we stayed in, and the travels back home, all of those logistics were so divinely beautiful and perfect. It almost seemed as if it was surreal. I felt the entire time as if we were being carried so effortlessly from every single thing to the next. And my team and I kept commenting on how beautifully protected we felt through the entire journey, which for me always means you're on the right track, which means that, I mean, of course, if things would have come up, we would have resolved for it and kept moving. But the fact that it was so beautiful and so effortless really just made the whole experience that much more amazing and incredible. Now, as you can imagine, because this is my first ever live event at this capacity, serving over 300 women, we were fully prepared for emergencies. We were fully prepared for some people to not be feeling well. We were prepared for there to be women who misunderstood the assignment in a bigger way. We were prepared for there to be disgruntled women in the audience. We really had a plan for almost everything and anything you could imagine that could go wrong. We had a security team in place. We had so many things that I had gone through with my team. I'll talk about my incredible team in just a moment, my crew slash host slash volunteers. But we had a backup plan for every possible thing you could imagine. And we needed to move on almost none of it at all, which also absolutely blows my mind to think that there were over 300 women in that room and the entire event ran so smoothly, and not even just beautifully, but if I could dare to even say with such a sacred energy. It felt holy. It felt like we were experiencing Broadway meets a concert, meets church for women, meets the most beautiful circle you've ever sat in, meets the most fun sleepover you've ever been a part of. It was literally the most divine experience of all the different energies, all the different archetypes, all the different forms and expressions for a woman rolled into one. And I did that very purposefully and created the transitions and the flow very artfully. And the fact that I kept hearing from the volunteers and the behind the scenes staff that the response was extraordinary all throughout the program. And other than maybe somebody not having one of the items in their swag bag, which we'd already resolved for because I had all of the volunteers had extra of everything nearby or in their pockets so that they could just run items to the women in the audience. We were more than prepared and beautifully, and so thrilled to say we had a phenomenal group of open-hearted, open-minded women who were so ready to receive this message, who are so willing to be vulnerable, who are willing to connect with one another and form sisterhoods, which is one of the greatest things that I love to see happen with these live events, where women get to be in the same room together and form these friendships, even if they live in different states, in different countries.
it is a really big part of why these live events mean so much to me, to create sisterhoods. I see it happen every time I've done smaller retreats. Women go on to connect and become lifelong friends. And I see how this will just continue to happen even in a bigger format. So there's just so much beauty and opportunity too, or for breakout sessions where I do that as well intentionally for women to talk with one another and really be able to get to know one another. So all of that to say, this format that I designed and that I take women through essentially has 4 pillars. And while I don't really share the details of that, that is reserved for those women who've gotten themselves into that room, into that space. What I do want to say is that I really built it on this very strong belief that I have that women need ritual. Women crave ceremony. Women crave community and a very holy energy around the process as we move through it, regardless of what energies we are working with, regardless of what topics we are moving through, what parts of being a woman we are processing. I constructed it to be in a ceremonial way of moving through the information, of experiencing the topic that we were sharing and being able to not just sit in your seat, take notes, and cerebrally hear it. I wanted us to be out of our seats. I wanted us to be activated to create the living imprint inside of your body for what it gets to feel like, so that when you go home, it's not something you have to just refer to a workbook or a manual on. You have the template inside of you because you actively did it inside of that room. And so the beauty of those 2 days blew any expectations I had. It was far surpassed my wildest dreams. And when I thought a lot about why was that, here's what I know to be true. Somehow we made that room, that convention center, feel so cozy with the mirrors and the candles and the fabric swags and the flowers and the lighting and the music. I very specifically picked and crafted an experience that would feel like a holding, that would feel ceremonial, that would feel safe, that would feel like a container. And then I intentionally placed all of the volunteers who, fortunately for me, were phenomenal previous clients that were invited in for this, went through some basic training on how to hold the space for this event, although they had already been seeing me do it for many years, having worked with me. So they'd been on the receiving end of it, and now they were on the end of being able to give it back to the world. So while we created this container, the external container inside of the room was the women who were the magnetic crew, who stood around the space, created a large circle around any of the ceremonies or rituals that we were moving through to create the energetic force field of holding the space for the women. And by the end of 2 days, there's a particular way in which I teach women how to hold space. By the end of those 2 days, I saw so many women holding space in that same way for one another. It was absolutely profound. And what I also realized was I've always known that ritual and ceremony was the way for healing, was the way to experience breakthroughs. I know as a clinical psychologist, talk therapy only takes us so far. I know that the results we're really looking for are not going to come just talking about it every week with your therapist. We need women up and moving. We need women really experiencing the energetic frequencies and flow through their body and out of their body in all of the expressions that I teach. And while I knew all of that to be true, there was that question of how will that translate with 300 and some women in the room in a convention center? And I'm here to tell you, not only did it transfer so beautifully, it was one of the most phenomenal witnessings of my entire life. To see that many women in one room moving through that much emotion collectively, individually first, and collectively was a sight that I wish everyone in the world would have the privilege to see. You can't see that. You can't hear that. You can't bear witness to that and not be changed on a fundamental level. On a fundamental level of understanding what the female experience sounds like, looks like, feels like. And what I also realized and knew to be true is that my ability to synthesize so much information in 2 days in a way that is concise, potent, yet digestible and very tangible and practical is something that I'm very, very deeply proud of and pride myself on. I really think that is part of the craft that separates me from so many other people in the field. And what I kept hearing from women over and over and over, they waited a very long time in line to come up and speak to me. And so many of them shared with me, I have done everything under the sun, Amanda. I've traveled all over the world and back. I've done decades of therapy. I've done ayahuasca journeys. I've done every kind of plant medicine. I've done psychedelics. I have done EMDR. I have tried every type of talk therapy, and nothing has ever landed this deeply for me. I already knew that to be true because I've been living this. I've been guiding women through this and teaching this for a very long time. But to have that many women, one after another, repeat something very similar to me, solidified that this is what we need as women. This is the medicine. We don't need to seek it outside of ourselves. It's all inside. And that's what this journey is. This journey is activating all of that ancient wisdom that already lives inside of every single woman, but has been dormant because she has been living in a patriarchal culture. She's not felt safe to get in touch with it. If she ever was able to, she often thought maybe she was delusional or something was wrong because she didn't have anyone else around her sharing that kind of language or speaking that way. So if she felt something that was really beautiful inside, she usually just pushes it away because she doesn't have a lot of evidence around her of other women doing that or other people guiding or teaching in that way, not mothers or grandmothers, and certainly not men in our society. So we as women are living so much in that patriarchal structure and like men and very much in performance. And when you are living like that, you cannot possibly connect to this ancient feminine beauty that lives within inside of you. So my work helps women very quickly to go in and activate that through ceremony. And then we work with that energy and all the different feminine archetypes throughout those 2 days together. I could not be more proud. I could not be more honored. The women that I hand selected to be our magnetic crew, like I mentioned, who were previous clients, are truly some of the most phenomenal humans in this entire world. Are women with such grace and compassion and elegance and grounding, profound, profound understanding of holding space and sistering one another. So many women kept coming up to me and are still messaging me saying, I have never in my life felt that safe, that held, that seen, that celebrated, that welcomed. From the minute the doors opened on the first morning, the way your crew greeted me took all of fear away, made me know that I made the right decision, that I was in the right place. I felt so incredibly seen. And I knew that was going to be the case, but other people don't know that until they feel it. And so I can't wait to share more of the testimonials and feedback that we have from so many of the women who shared their hearts about their experience. And I could not have been more proud and humbled that every one of these women said yes. And being able to see them and the way they cared so well for the women in the audience allowed me to serve at such a high level, because I knew that they had everyone down in the audience, and I could really step bigly, fully into what I needed to serve. And then my team, who was in charge of everything AV and music and lights and temperature and transitions and all of those good and beautiful things, I felt so supported. It was beyond my expectations. We put on such a first-class show, and we'll only grow and expand from here. We already have ideas for the next show and what we're going to do to make it even more potent, particularly when it comes to transitions and that theater show quality. This is really where the idea of like a Broadway show meets a concert, meets a holy sacred ceremony, meets church for women, meets a comedy show, where it all kind of comes together. It's the most beautiful place to be a woman, to express yourself, to learn so many new perspectives and tools for healing, to get your questions answered, to meet other women from all around the world who are on this growth-minded journey. We are building a global movement. I could not be more excited. I could not be more certain. And I feel something really big shifted. I moved through a portal. Well, I knew I was going to, and I knew I was going to come out on the other side even more deeply integrated in my work. There is assuredness that feels so profoundly big. And I feel so guided and held in it, because I know that it is simply my responsibility to walk out one step at a time. And it feels, as my best friend coined it, like a divine appointment. And I could not be more honored to show up, to serve with all of my heart, all of my soul, my integrity, and my authenticity. For I know that that is a differentiator in my leadership, that I am not teaching or guiding from any pedestal, that I am one with all of the women of the world. And that is forever how I have functioned and how I will forever remain. I hope to see you at one of the future magnetic events. We already have 2 of them for 2025. So stay tuned, as we will be announcing those in the coming weeks. So very much love to you. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I would love to hear your feedback. Message me on Instagram or write a review. And of course, if you know a woman who could benefit from this episode, please share it with her, because it can heal her life. And that's what sisters do. Love always, Dr. Amanda.